Nature has a way of defying our expectations, but few things break the rules of biology quite like the Chinese bamboo tree. After years of remaining completely hidden, a tiny sprout finally breaks the surface, and then it erupts, shooting into the canopy with shocking speed. Over the course of just 6 weeks, this fragile green shoot extends an astonishing 80 feet into the air. It looks like overnight success, a biological anomaly happening right before our eyes. But from a purely mechanical standpoint, erecting an 80-foot vertical structure in a month and a half is a massive liability. Looking at this diagram, the physics problem becomes obvious. A tall, thin spire carrying a high center of gravity, but lacking a massive proportional base, would simply topple over at the first gust of wind. So how does a living thing undergo that kind of explosive growth without collapsing under its own weight? The answer is that those 6 weeks of visible growth are an illusion. To understand how the tree survives, we have to look at the 5 years of absolute nothingness that came right before it. This text outlines the basic biology. A Chinese bamboo seed requires the exact same inputs as any normal plant. A farmer tends to it daily. Yet, in the first year, there is 0 visible growth. The second year passes exactly the same way. By year 3, and then year 4, the ground remains completely, stubbornly bare. It takes immense discipline to wake up every morning and pour water onto a patch of empty dirt. Any rational outside observer would look at that barren plot and conclude the seed was dead, the soil was bad, and the labor was entirely wasted. But biology is unforgiving here. If the farmer loses patience and stops watering the plot during those silent years, the seed will wither and die in the ground. To see what is actually happening, we have to move past the empty topsoil and plunge deep underground. The seed was never dormant. While the surface looked completely dead, the plant was wildly active. As we can see in this cutaway, the tree spent those 4 silent years systematically pushing a dense, complex root system downward and outward through the earth. This unseen, massive footprint solves our physics problem. It establishes the heavy, wide base required to anchor an 80-foot vertical load against heavy winds. This resolves the discrepancy in the timeline. The bamboo tree didn't grow 80 feet in 6 weeks. It took 5 full years. That dramatic surge upward is entirely reliant on the exhausting, invisible foundation building project that preceded it. Looking at the takeaway summary here, this botanical quirk illustrates a common pattern in human effort. Progress isn't always visible. There is almost always a lag time, a steep delay between putting in the effort and seeing a tangible result. And that gap is the most vulnerable phase of any major endeavor. When you are consistently doing the work, but the surface remains totally bare, the natural human impulse is to assume you are failing. But prolonged periods of 0 output are frequently just mandatory stretches of development. You are building the subterranean architecture required to support vertical growth down the line. There will inevitably be moments when the urge to abandon a goal feels overwhelming because you have nothing to show for your labor. That is the exact moment you have to trust the mechanics of the process over the immediate lack of external validation. Stay patient, keep investing in your efforts, and don't stop watering the soil, because the most vital growth is usually happening in the dark.